Welcome. Willkommen.
Bienvenue. Добро пожаловать. Witamy.
Benvenuto.
ようこそ
To This Week in Voice Live.
Bradley, good morning.
Emerson, how are you?
I am great. How about yourself?
Doing good. I'm starting to warm up to our very dramatic intro song.
Yeah, that was my amateur editing at putting some music and some sounds together. It gets to start off on the morning right.
It does, sure does.
And good morning to everybody out in the audience. Happy Friday. Hope everybody's doing well. Yeah, been actually quite a busy and crazy week. Not to mention all of the fun of April Fools yesterday.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed that, but our guest in just a minute, we'll talk. I saw his April Fools and was amused by that and some other folks, but yeah, we'll talk about that shortly.
Great. Yeah. For everybody out in the audience, happy Friday. We're going to follow our normal agenda. We're going to talk about some news from the last week. We will have an interview with our esteemed guest, Evan Kirstel. And then we're going to be playing round 2 of our Tetris tournament. So you can head to tetr.io and get ready. We'll have the instructions about what to do. So yeah, let's jump right in.
You want me to start or you want to start?
I'll go ahead and start. So I think everybody that knows me out there knows I'm a big fan of Discord. I was pretty excited to see the rumors flying over the last week and a half or so about Microsoft potentially in talks to buy Discord for a whopping $10 billion, which is quite an acquisition for a gamer-focused or historically gamer-focused audio and video sharing platform. In the last year, their active users has doubled to $140 million. So they certainly have quite a presence. And I see this as a play on a couple different fronts. So I think one, it certainly competes in the gaming audio space versus Amazon's Twitch. Microsoft had put out a product or had acquired and then rebranded a product, Beam, and then Mixer, which was short-lived and not particularly successful. So I think it's a competition on that side against Amazon. I think it's big competition against their primary competitors in the gaming space. Primary being being Sony, but also to a lesser extent Nintendo, and then the mobile gaming space, because Discord by default gives some insight into what games people are playing or what music they're listening to. So I think that getting access to seeing what people are actually doing on these platforms is going to be helpful. And then I think it also is them hopping on that social audio hype. I mean, LinkedIn now is piloting a social audio tool. Discord actually released some insight yesterday that seems not to be an April Fool's joke, that they have their Discord stage channels, which is another one there. Seems like an interesting play as long as they keep it open and not commercialized.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. But the echo's gone, by the way. Whatever you did, Emerson. The couple of things about this. I love the fact that as we've gone along over the last couple of decades. See, I grew up with gaming being heavily stigmatized. It's like, who would do that? It's child's play, basically, and not something that any serious person would be doing past, 14 years old.
Yeah.
Now we've gotten to the point where, Microsoft buying Discord, a big part of that, as you noted, is just to capture the full 3-dimensional gamer. So not just the gamer as they're playing games, but who's that whole person? Because that whole person is a working professional, is somebody doing different things, and what are the other opportunities to serve them outside of just the gaming world, because they got money to spend. They got a lot of different network effects going on. And so I love it. I think it's great. Well beyond the social audio aspect.
Yeah, I think again, it's gonna depend on how well they can convince the, again, huge active user base that they have today that they're not going to try and Microsoftify it. You know, that they're gonna leave it alone and let it do what it does best. Speaking
of Microsoftifying something, so look, not only have I been a long-time Xbox Live customer, but I want to shift gears and talk about LinkedIn. So VoiceBot ran an article about LinkedIn is experimenting with / integrating social audio. And, we're seeing this gold rush is how I would phrase it. There's gold in them hills, and everybody's going after it, whether it's Slack or, Clubhouse or Twitter. The thing about LinkedIn, I see on Twitter all the time, and maybe it's because it is a different social network and I guess a competitor, but, I see people mock LinkedIn. I see people ridicule LinkedIn. I see people make statements about LinkedIn that clearly they don't understand what the value of LinkedIn is. Let me tell you something about LinkedIn. When we want to have somebody speak at a conference that we do, we don't know who they are. LinkedIn is absolutely the first stop. If that person doesn't have a LinkedIn profile, that conversation is over, because there's no working professional, like from the top 98 percentile all the way down to the bottom 10 percentile, that wouldn't do that. Like, if you're above that or below that, then maybe you've got an argument. Furthermore, you expect it to be filled out accurately and kept up to date with current information. And if it's not, then all of a sudden you've got another statement on the person right there. LinkedIn, you're able to glean such valuable information about working professionals in a very short amount of time. And when you layer social audio onto that, it would be very hard for that not to be impactful. To do virtual events, the VoiceBot piece, which I encourage people to read at voicebot.ai, talks about this concept of, doing some Clubhouse type of stuff where you got moderators and speakers and that, but tied directly to it are the profile links of the various participants, so that you can easily connect to other people just as a natural motion of having events in the space. I think it's fantastic. I think there's a lot of promise to it, and I would immediately ratchet it to the top of the list in terms of promise, even above something like Clubhouse, which I think is going to get possibly run right out of the market. So that's my thoughts on all that.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this with some of our voice friends on Clubhouse meetings, whatever, rooms, that I like, even though I haven't done very many of them, I like the Twitter Spaces a little more than Clubhouse, because it lets me immediately jump to that person's Twitter profile. And Twitter is not, some of us use it for, professional purposes, but Twitter is certainly more casual than LinkedIn. But with Clubhouse, it's totally disconnected from that person's real persona. LinkedIn is obviously then a step, even further in that direction. It's really connected to that person's professional profile. And I really like that aspect of it. I know though that some people really don't like that aspect. Some people really like the separation and differentiation between Clubhouse and essentially everything else that exists. So it'll be interesting to see where the market goes, where the industry goes, which one people use, and then also which one people feel more comfortable putting out impactful, authentic, meaningful content on.
It's just, even while you were saying that, I had the thought of something else I really didn't even realize about LinkedIn doing social audio, which is the fact that, as we've seen and has been well documented, especially when Microsoft took over, the fact that people's profile and their real information is known on LinkedIn has a incredible effect on the stuff that they will post or not post. And you see it to some degree on Twitter, but of course you have a lot of anonymous people there. I would actually be fascinated to see once LinkedIn rolls something out, some sort of side-by-side analysis on here are the types of things being said within the social audio platform, here over on LinkedIn, where everyone can be held accountable because their employer is listed, everything about them is listed and known, as opposed to some of these other platforms where maybe you have partial information, maybe you have none.
Well, with that, I'm curious to hear more people's thoughts in the comments. But with that, let's bring our guest Evan on. Evan, good morning.
I'm doing great for a Friday. Thank you. I'm just here for the Tetris. I'm here for the Tetris tournament. Where do I play?
We'll get to that and just trust me. Yeah, that's going to be high intensity.
Awesome.
So Evan, for people that don't know you, do you want to introduce yourself? Say what it is that you do, and tell us what it means to be an influencer.
Well, it's really meaningless. I hate that word, but I'll take it. Yeah, my background is 30 years in enterprise tech and telecom. Frankly, kind of boring backwater space for a long time. And over the years, I've just been over the dozen years, personally obsessed with digital and social media in particular, and sort of built this audience, this opinion leadership, I guess, and turned that into my own business. So I grabbed influencer, or kind of people described me as one, so I just took the mantra and run with it. But it really is, just having an outside share of voice on certain topics on social media platforms. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
I'm curious, how you got started with that. Did you, like, with Twitter, and I meant to look, you got just a gargantuan following. How did it all start? Like, when did you realize, Twitter is going to be a place where, I'm picking up a bunch of new people, a lot of new followers, new business leads? Like, share with us a little bit of the journey, because it's something that very few people experience.
Well, my first tweet, I actually traced it back, and you can do that. There's some tools that allow you to. And I was at a Chuck E. Cheese with my kids when they were little, bored out of my mind, disgusted by the place. And I just like, what app can I download to provide some diversion from this horrific place? And I found Twitter, and I think my first tweet was, wow, this place, Chuck E. Cheese, it's like a casino for kids. And that I tweeted that out, and I got a ton of responses and LOLs and engagement, and immediately the endorphins and all the serotonins were flowing. I'm like, wow, this is cool. And I was pretty much addicted to Twitter from then. And actually, a million tweets later, believe it or not, I passed 1 million tweets, which really is unhealthy. I wouldn't advise, children, do not do that, or adults. That's just really awful. But 1 million tweets later, I've kind of have this presence there, and but so that's just personally. Professionally, when I'm not tweeting about cats or dogs or Chuck E. Cheese, it really is using it to extend my opinions, thoughts, introspections into the markets I'm interested in, which are enterprise tech and cloud and AI and 5G and a few other topics. And so I just have connected and built, really meaningful online virtual relationships with people in my field, ranging from, followers, Michael Dell follows me, or opinion leaders at executives at Microsoft or Cisco or Intel or Qualcomm, and so I've then parlayed that into a business, which is, helping clients with events and best practices and thought leadership and kind of, helping them with reach and other things. So, that's kind of the strange story, if you will, in a nutshell.
No, that's incredible. And so let's shift gears and talk about voice for a minute, because I love having somebody. A big part of what we do with this show is the like tech communities they start to become insular. Any community doing anything, if left to its own devices, will become insular and echo chamberish. Love having you here just to share. Voice is not your bailiwick. It's just something among all these other different emerging technologies that you pay attention to in conversational AI. When you look at Alexa, Google Assistant, Siri, the mainstream stuff, and then some other, more niche conversational AI stuff, when you just sort of survey the landscape from your 30,000-foot perspective, what is it that you see?
Well, it's the most natural language, no pun intended, way to interact in the history of mankind. I mean, it's sort of so it's just been a dream for decades, and it looks like we're finally arriving. So yeah, it seems so obvious to me, and there's been so many false starts and curves in the road and dead ends that we've all become a little bit immune to, the idea of voice interfaces everywhere. But now it's kind of gotten really practical. The technology has gotten good, the applications have gotten better, the use cases, whether it's like in a business context, in a contact center, or, a conversational AI interface with your bank or other applications. Now it gets really interesting, because when it gets practical, then it can really make an impact on our personal or professional lives.
And do you see companies doing particularly good jobs evangelizing the use of voice to their followers, to their both business and consumer followers? Do you see ones perhaps that are doing a particularly bad job of it?
Well, in my space, we're starting to see a really good implementations of conversational AI. So getting rid of these horrific, horrible IVRs, interactive voice response systems that, press 1 for this and press 2 for that. And so we're beginning to see good implementations. There's still horrible implementations. Most people hate chatbots, or they hate talking to machines. But, it's getting better, and certainly driven by the consumer side of Alexa. People are really warming up to the idea. And so the business impact is real when you talk about like contact centers and voice applications. So it's pretty cool.
Before I whip both of you in Tetris, let me ask you about social audio, since our news stories covered social audio. I registered antisocialaudio.com yesterday, which I am psyched to use, and figure out the best way to deploy that. We're going to incorporate social audio into Project Voice with something down the line that we'll talk about in shows to come, called Project Voice X. But I want to get your thoughts, Evan, on social audio. Couldn't be bigger. Couldn't hear more people talking about it. Couldn't hear more people just chirping about it all the time. So we're clearly at the top end of the fad hype cycle. But where do you think we go with social audio? What is it you see with that as well?
Well, for me, it's I'm 50 years old. I graduated in '92, started working in the enterprise and sales right out of school, technical sales. And for me, it's kind of coming home again. I mean, we used voice messaging to communicate with groups. We used plain old audio conferencing. We used voicemail, with clients. We talked, we made calls like all the time. And so for me, it's really coming home again. So at least in the enterprise or business world, this seems all very natural, very comfortable. And I think there's like, what under the mantra, what's nothing new under the sun. It's like, okay, we're coming home again to a way of interacting and communicating that we've used for quite a long time. So I think, this all makes very, very much sense.
Well said. Emerson, you ready to rock?
Yeah, let's do it. So for anybody who wants to join, I will put the little overlay back up here. Head to tetr.io. And no need to create an account. You can just type in your name. You'll want to hit Stay Anonymous. That way you don't have to actually create an account. And then you hit Stay Anonymous. You hit multiplayer and type in the code USQS at the top, and it will let you into to this room.
I'm looking for where to put the code in.
Once you hit multiplayer, it should be a little box sort of above it.
Oh, there it is.
All right.
Yeah, I'm digging the music. I like this.
Yeah.
Oh, this TETR.io thing that Emerson found is fantastic. It's really cool.
Really cool, and hopefully it's a little more gracious to me this time than last time.
Absolutely not. It's going to be much harsher. I got to talk trash just while I can as our reigning Tetris champion in case I have not that episode.
Evan, is one of those you?
I'm not sure. I'm on a mobile device, so I may be at a disadvantage here.
I don't know. I think you probably have a little more experience, perhaps, than some of the other players in the group.
That's a dig. That's a dig.
Evan, it's funny you mentioned Chuck E. Cheese. We had a few weeks ago Nolan Bushnell, who is the founder of Chuck E. Cheese, here on the show. I remember playing so many games at birthdays at Chuck E. Cheese as a little kid.
I have words for that guy. I have issues. I may have to hunt him down and have a man-to-man chat.
All right. Well,
sadly, Chuck E. Cheese is gone. Right, the great cheese in the he's gone. Chucky's gone to that great cheese in the sky.
I think so. Yeah, he took a turn for the darker when he went over to the Five Nights at Freddy's. All right. Well, let's do this. So you hit left and right, obviously, to move left and right, and then down will make it go down faster, and up changes it. Oh no, I'm already off to a bad start. Oh no. Oh no.
I started to get a little bit sinister there, but there you go. That's what
Bradley is the winner again. Good job.
I gotta take the opportunities and be very clear that they exist.
Tough. Wow. Yeah, good job, Bradley. All that practice has paid off.
Well, you talk about my life.
Yeah. And we may have lost Evan in that rousing defeat. It was too much for his mobile phone.
Well, we appreciate him joining. And
Yeah, great to hear his insight.
Yeah, really interesting guy. Really sharp guy. But Emerson, appreciate you. Happy to deal out punishment at the end of the show for the second straight week, and
yeah,
see if we can keep that going.
Yeah, and we'll have to follow back up with Evan. Maybe we can touch on it next week. I'd be curious about what his beef is with Chuck E. Cheese with Nolan Bush now.
He sounded upset. So better to just sort of leave that sitting.
Maybe he lost one too many games of skee ball or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll look to reconvene next week. Who have we got next week?
Yeah, next week is going to be really exciting. We have Jason Scott, who is the head of the Google startup developer ecosystem. He's one of the leaders of the Google for Startup Accelerator program, which Bespoken is in. There are 12 phenomenal companies that are in this current cohort. So going to be really interested to hear his perspective on what Google is looking to in the market, and what they see as advancements, not just in voice, but across the broader space as well. And then we'll certainly hear about some of the other companies that are in the space. Probably going to have some of them come join us in future episodes. Should be a lot of fun.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you for joining me on the show and setting all this stuff up and doing everything you do. And it's great to see you and have a good weekend.
Yeah, great to see you as well, Bradley. Everybody out in the audience, thanks so much for joining. Have a happy holiday weekend, and we will see you here next week.
Thank y'all very much for being here.